So can I please get you to put your hands together and welcome the one and only Billy Boyd. Very warm welcome to you, sir.
Thank you very much. Nice to be here.
Well, here we are at the third and final day of Armageddon 2013. And have you been enjoying yourself?
Yeah, I have. It's been really nice.
Excellent, excellent. And you've been signing furiously, I understand.
I've been signing. I've also had my photo taken with some people, and I've answered some questions. That's mainly what I've been doing. And then also ate some lunch.
Fine, lunch is always a very valuable part of the day.
Exactly, and it's second breakfast, of course.
Well, we have a eager throng right here in front of us, and I'm sure that they are dying to ask you further questions. I'd like to also talk about what you're doing these days and what's the plans for the future and all that kind of jazz. But in the meantime, we can kick it away. If there's time is always of the essence. If anybody has any questions right here for Billy, I shall come out straight with the microphone.
Hey, Billy.
Hello.
I was told to ask you about the TIG game.
Ah, TIG game. TIG is a made-up game. That's what I think. And it is. We made up a game while we were doing Lord of the Rings, because there's a lot hanging around making movies, you've probably have heard. And one day, me and Dom were just standing, and we started going TIG, 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 as if we were playing TIG, you know, but without any energy to run around. and then Orlando came in, and we started kind of going TIG, tag, and doing stuff like that. And Elijah came up and he said, "What are you doing?" And we said, "Oh, we're playing this British game." And then we started making up rules for it, where you TIG, and then you can double TIG, but you can't double TIG a tag. And then it's got to go anti-clockwise until somebody double TIGs. And we made up all these rules. And whenever Elijah played, we always said he was getting it wrong. We're like, "Elijah, you know you can't double TIG a tag." And you could see him try to work it out in his head. And even Sean Aston joined in. And he knew that we were winding Elijah up. So then everybody could win it except Elijah. And then we forgot about it for like months. And Elijah, the sweetest man, came up and said, "You know, guys, we never play TIG anymore." And we were like, "Oh, Elijah, I forgot to tell you. TIG's a made-up game." So that was TIG.
Craziness. Oh, it's straight. Take some more questions.
So did you have any, or are there any funny set stories from the set of Space Milkshake?
Oh, yeah, there's quite a few. That was, did anyone see Space Milkshake? It's fun, isn't it? We had such a great time making it, because it was just the four of us. The set was from a TV show, something Gravity? Defying Gravity. That just made me think of Wicked that I went to see last night. I felt as if I was going to get into full song mode there. But, yeah, so there was a show called Defying Gravity that I think the channel, whatever channel it was, thought it was going to run and run, so they spent millions on the set. And then it got cancelled after the first series. So the guy who wrote Space Milkshake, Armin, something's waiting for something in the food court. If anybody's ordered the hot dog, it could be yours. So he bought it. He bought the whole set for like, $10 or something. And then he just kept it until he got the money to make the movie. So then they built the set. So we didn't have to like hanging around for people to build the next, building little bits of set and all that. We had this whole space station built in a sound studio. So we could go from one place to another and do these scenes, and it was really fast and it was fun, and yeah, we had a great time doing it. And for anyone who's seen it, we all get covered in slime at the end, and the slime was horrible and freezing, and they kept topping it up, and it just felt horrible. It was so gross, and getting into the shower after the slime was so good. So we had like 2 days of slime. And I would get into the shower with my clothes on just to heat up. I was like, oh, it was so horrible. And the girls were great as well, you know, for dealing with it. But Robin didn't have to get slimed for the whole 2 days. So at the end, very last day of filming, we slimed them. We got buckets of slime and just poured it all over them. That was pretty funny.
So,
How cold was it on the set?
So cold, and it wasn't much warmer inside. So yeah, well done for the girls for wearing skin tight stuff, and me for being in my underwear.
Whose idea was that?
That was my idea. I said I thought it'd be quite funny if the captain thought it was too hot in his spacesuit, so he didn't like to wear anything underneath. And then there was a big talk about what kind of underpants I should wear. I like being in my underwear.
No, it's okay. Supposed to imagine the audience naked, not, you know.
I'm imagining myself naked. Always.
had you any plans to come down to New Zealand at all prior to Lord of the Rings?
I keep making plans, and then something keeps happening, you know. So I've had so many times that I've planned to come back, and I've never made it back since Return of the King. Does anybody want that? It's actually, you've got to share if you've got sweets. They've got Milky Bar things. I meant share with everyone. Thank you very much. Milky Bars are on me. A tragic tale, a guy got killed once by a big boxes of Milky Bar fell on him in the factory. And every time he shouted, "The Milky Bars are on me," people just cheered. It's a true story. Tragedy, I don't know why you're laughing. What were we talking about it? Oh yeah, coming to New Zealand. So yeah, I keep having these plans and then something happens and I don't make it. And then this happened and I was like, yeah, I'd love to go back. So here I am. And then Dom, do you know Dom Monaghan? He was a Hobbit and all that. And then he was in Lost, Not Penny's Boat and all that. That guy. So what? So he's got this TV show now called Wild Things, where he travels the world trying to find like the world's most poisonous spider and the world's biggest insect and all this. And he was coming to New Zealand to do an episode, and he asked me if I'd like to go. So we're going to do an episode of his show here in about a month. So I'll be back again. Yeah,
Nice.
Back in New Zealand. Be great. I'm going to eat a Milky Bar.
Ladies and gentlemen, this is your opportunity. Billy's here live for us. Oh, I love the way you throw your hand in the air, I've got to say. Full of enthusiasm.
I was also requested to ask you about the rocket and the peeing incident.
Rocket and peeing.
Yes. When you went up in the rocket.
I peed in a rocket?
That's what someone told me.
What?
It was on the commentary for one of the Lord of the Rings DVDs.
Peed on a rocket? There wasn't any rockets in Lord of the Rings.
I didn't know.
In the Middle Earth. If we had rockets, it would have been easier. Stuck the ring in there and off it went. I have no idea what that means.
Oh.
Maybe the rocket? They stuck on the ground.
Firework?
Maybe that?
I didn't pee on it, did I? I don't remember peeing on a rocket.
Bucket fountain. Bucket fountain.
Oh, the bucket fountain. Apparently Elijah Wood peed in the bucket fountain one night. I didn't pee in it. Bucket fountain's a beautiful thing. In Wellington, it's a lovely sculpture where you just watch and then the water all comes down. Apparently it wasn't just water one night. One time, anybody see Master and Commander?
Yeah.
Well, I was making that movie. In the storm scene, thanks for that chocolate, that was delicious. We should share with everybody though. We were making that movie in the storm scene. They had these rain towers, huge rain towers, and they had, to do the wind, they had like huge fans, but they also had jets, like from a jet engine that blew the kind of rain on us, and they had dump tanks. Each one could do 5 tons of water at a time. It was a huge thing, and we're filming it for 2 weeks. And So the water for the tank, for the rain towers, was coming from the tank. We filmed it in the same tank as they did Titanic down in Mexico. And so we'd been filming it for about 3 days or something, and they said, we're just going to stop filming and everybody's got a couple of days off. And we were like, what? We're right in the middle of the storm scene, why are we having days off? Turns out there was about 50 people on the boat, and some of them were supporting cast. But if you were in it, you were just there the whole time because you were on the ship, you know. So there was a lot of kind of guys from Poland and all over the world. But it was so hard to get off the boat during the day that they'd been peeing into the tank. So during this storm scene, the rain towers were just pouring piss on us for 3 days. So we all get days off while they drained the tank and filled it back up again. So there you are. There was no rockets, but there was pee. And 50-50, that's not bad for a story.
So, Philip, besides the Wild Things episode coming up in a month's time, what have you got what's in the future?
So, when I get back, I'm working with the band. I've got a band called Milkshake, and we are working on some new material and getting a video done. So that's the first thing I'm getting back to do. And I'm also finishing a film called Amsterdam, which is based on Jack and the Beanstalk, the story of Jack and the Beanstalk. But the seed, the magic seed that Jack gets, doesn't grow a beanstalk, it grows the greatest marijuana plant. So, I'm going back to film Amsterdam.
How did it came to be that you wrote Melody for Each of the Night?
How did I write the music?
Yeah, how did it come to be? How did you actually...
What happened, really, strangely, so we're filming Return of the King, and, I think they were trying to get more music and poetry in, because that's very much a part of Tolkien, but in a film it's difficult, because you can't pack it full of that stuff, it becomes something else. So I think they were looking at ideas, and we had a night out and we went to a karaoke bar, and I sang Delilah, the Tom Jones song, and Philippa Boyens was there, who's one of the writers of Lord of the Rings, and she was like, the next day, would you sing a song in Return of the King? And I was like, yeah, I'd love to, and they said, we've got this idea that, Denethor asked you to sing a Hobbit song and stuff. So I was like, yeah, I'd love to. So Howard Shore was writing it, but then they changed the timing of when it was going to be filmed. So then there wasn't time. So they said to me, could you write something? So I wrote a couple of songs. I went round to Pete's house, and we listened to them, and everybody agreed on the song, The Edge of Night, the way it is. And then we recorded it in the scene, and it was lovely. It was just and we knew we'd have to re-record it because the sound wasn't right, because there was wind machines and lights and all that were making noise, so they knew it wasn't going to be clean enough to actually use in the film. But it was great that we sang it and we did the whole thing, and that's how it got in the film. And then we were to re-record it in a studio in Wellington, and the day before we were re-recording it, I did the voice for the video game for Return of the King. And I don't know if anybody plays video games. Yeah. I would guess you probably do. You're at a convention. But if you're doing the voice for a video game, you basically spend all day shouting, over here! Pick up that! Do this! Help me! All day, that's what you do. And then the next day I went to sing the song and I had no voice whatsoever. So they said, well, we can't record it. We'll just do it sometime in the future, And end up, when they could record it, I was back in Britain, and they said, okay, well, we'll record it in Abbey Road then. And I was like, oh, right. I was like, well, I'm a huge Beatles fan. So I got to spend the day in Abbey Road. I called up Dom. I was like, Dom, I'm going to Abbey Road to record. So he came, and we spent the day in Abbey Road. It was brilliant.
Yeah. Would you mind singing a little bit?
No, I wouldn't do that. No. Nice of you to ask, though. It was a nice thing. Someone sang it to me the other day, and the question and answer was, does anybody else want to sing it?
No, after hearing her, she was amazing.
She was great, wasn't she?
If I sing it, you'll be leaving.
That could be quite funny. And funny's good as well. No? Okay.
At what point did you find out that you were in the frame for the movie?
It actually all happened quite fast. Everybody was sort of going up for it, you know, because we knew it was going to be this big trilogy of films. So I was working in theatre in Edinburgh, and everybody was going to the casting director in London called the Hubbards, and going on tape, and then the tapes were all sent to Pete in New Zealand. So I did the tape, and then about a month later they said, okay, Pete Jackson's doing a tour of the world. He's Los Angeles, New York, Sydney, and meeting sort of 4 people for each part. So I went and met Pete and Fran, and just read for them, and we did a few scenes that aren't actually in the film as I remember it. And he directed different ways and stuff. And then, like within a week, I got a phone call saying, you're Pippin if you want to do it. I was like, yeah, I want to do that, yeah. And then they said, Pete wants to give you a phone call. And I lived in Glasgow and doing theatre in Edinburgh, which is like an hour away. And I had no money. So I was getting to the theatre in a bus, and when he wanted to phone me, I was on the bus. So I'm on the bus trying to be really quiet, talking to Pete Jackson, He's talking about Lord of the Rings, and I'm like, yeah, okay. And there's like drunk guys and all that next to me. Yeah, and then we went and did it. And then when we finished, when everyone finished the last day of filming, they had a sort of party, and they would show a kind of a mistakes reel of all your kind of stuff, goofy stuff. And then Pete would say a little speech, and everybody had drinks, and it was great. So me and Ian McKellen finished on the same day, so we shared a sort of party. And Pete had said in his speech that I was actually the first person cast in the film, the first of the Hobbits, which I thought was, quite weird. But, I suppose that's why it happened so fast, So, much easier than a lot of jobs. I went up for theatre jobs where they see you 9 times. And you're like, to the same panel of people, you come in and you do your speech and you do your thing. And then they're like, great. And then the next week they say, can you come back in? And you do the same speech for the same panel of people. And you're like, well, I'm not going to get any better. This is it. I either say yes or no. So, I suppose Pete, is one of the great things that he has is he's great at making decisions, and that's part of being a director. On set, he would, while he's directing, sitting at the screen watching what he's doing, there'd be a line of people with like swords and helmets and shields and plates and saying, is this okay, this, helmet for Ewan? And he'd go, yeah, just change that, make that cover. He makes decisions very fast, And I think making films like that, you have to. I would be like, I don't know, it looks good to me. I don't know. I can't even decide what I want for lunch. Doing that.
Did you specifically go out for Pippin, or was there a range that you...
No, when I first read with the casting director, I read for Mary and Pippin, but when I met Pete, it was just Pippin. Yeah.
Cool. Guys, if you want questions, I shall come to you.
To your knowledge, who's the person who had the longest take, and what was the reason?
Oh, the longest take or the most takes?
Most takes, like,
the most takes trying to do. Pete does like a lot of takes. He does a lot, and his partner Fran does even more. She just does millions of takes. To the point that I started to call that Franley Kubrick, because he liked a lot of takes and all. So she would honestly do 30, 40 takes of something, and kind of like in the thing, you're like, I don't know what else to do. I'm done. But she's very specific, and I think that's great. Different people work different ways. I've worked with directors who'll do one take, and you're like, well, what if you get into the editing room and that's you don't have anything to fall back on? But they're fine with that. But I quite like doing a lot of takes. I quite like, because once you feel like you've got what you wanted to do, then you can mess around, And I remember Ian Holm, who plays Bilbo, he was the master of that. He would do something completely different on every take. He was amazing. I think he could have done it all day, and he would just keep changing it, tweaking it, different. Wonderful to watch, And maybe that's what, once Peter Fran had got what they wanted, then they liked you to kind of do your own thing, And it's quite a nice way of working, I thought.
What spins your wheels more, theatre or film?
I like both. I like theatre as in, the curtain goes up and then it's just you and the other actors and the technicals, that you're telling this story and you tell it from the start to the end for the people in that room, and that's it. There's something very special about that, and I don't think we should lose that. I think a lot of people think that theatre's dead, and I don't think it is when it's theatrical. When you remember that you're trying to share something, that the audience are complicit to what's going on, that it shouldn't be a line, and it shouldn't be like watching a movie. It shouldn't be like a live movie in 3D. You should be, it's very important that the audience know that they're part of it. So when that's great, I think that is wonderful. I think film is how we tell stories in our generation. It's how we do it best, So I'm really excited that I'm able to be part of that as well. So I think if I had to just do one, I'd be disappointed. But being able to jump from one to the other is really nice, I think.
Do you find your approach to the characters changes depending on the medium?
No, not really. I was thinking about that actually, because I did theatre this summer, and I was standing on stage and thinking, do I do this different? And I don't really. Other than that, luckily it was Shakespeare that I did, and in Shakespeare you can talk to the audience, and that's something you don't do on film. But other than that, the actual process isn't any different really, other than you just make it smaller, for film.
Cool, thanks. We've got a question coming in from the front and at the back. Take the back one first. Sprint it up like a sprinter.
I just said they need to make you sprint. Hi, Billy. Wait a minute. Can you say theatre 5 times in a row, because my wife thinks it's very sexy.
What, are you going to record it and use it?
Yeah. It'll be my new Viagra.
That'd be good, wouldn't it? Yeah, when you repeat things, they lose their meaning. And sometimes I do that when I'm in a different country with a Scottish accent. I start going, theatre, theatre, theatre. You theatre, theatre, theatre. It starts to go. I did it actually in Lord of the Rings. The second breakfast thing. I started thinking, breakfast? That doesn't sound right. Breakfast? And then I was like, it's break. You're breaking the fast. So I was like, break fast? Is that what? And then I started thinking, well, maybe the hobbits, maybe they were more specific. They did do that. You're actually in my mind just now, by the way, because I'm just trying to work this out myself. And so then I did actually, and when I watch it back now, I say, second breakfast. I would never say that. But I can remember on the day thinking, breakfast, breakfast, breakfast. And now when I listen back, I'm like, that's a word in an accent that doesn't exist, that I just made up.
Hello again.
Hello.
I was just wondering if you had fun voicing Glenn.
Glenn?
Yeah, Glenn.
Yeah. Glenn is Chucky's son in Seed of Chucky. And yeah, it was fun. It's scary movies, I know. And when they asked me to do it, I'm not really into horror movies. It's a genre I've never... Well, in the 80s, I used to watch them because, you know, VHS had just come out. And horror was pretty much all there was. And it was all... Remember films like The Brood and Rabies and Piranha. And I think that put me off horrors. I couldn't sleep for 7 years. Thinking a rabies brood of piranha dogs were going to have me. So I kind of, horrors aren't really my thing now. Like Elijah Wood loves them. It's his, what he loves, but I don't really get it. But Chucky, I was like, oh, it's such a sort of, you know, pop culture thing. I thought it would be cool to be part of that. And then I spoke to the director, and he had this idea of making it like sort of Oliver, this little lost orphan. So who you know, so he has this sort of, you know, London sort of thing going on, and he's a little orphan guy who thinks he's from Japan because he's got made in Japan because he's a doll, and he doesn't know if he's a boy or a girl because dolls, you know, they're smooth. So he doesn't know if he's a boy or a girl, and when he's a boy he's really sweet, he's like Oliver, and then when he's a girl he kills people and all. And I kind of based the girl on... Has anybody ever seen Secrets and Lies? It's a great Mike Leigh film. Yeah. Mike Leigh? Yeah. And Brenda Blethyn in it. I kind of based it on her. Yeah. She's like, "You got a cigarette, dear? Got a little cigarette for me?" And I sort of thought that was kind of a fun sort of opposite to this kind of nice Oliver character. So yeah, so it was great fun. But you basically spend 2 days doing funny voices, and then that's you. You don't do the rest of the film. They go off and do everything. So it's a good thing to do, I think, voicing characters.
Yeah, maybe VJs, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what you look like, it's great. And it's just you and the director having a giggle in front of a microphone, you know. It was fun.
You're saying you're voicing the Lord of the Rings game. Have you done any other games?
No, I think that's the only game I've done. Yeah. Something I've never really thought about. Maybe I should.
Maybe you should. Anything from the floor?
Do you get nervous before you start filming something?
No, not really. Not kind of nervous. I think more now than when I started. I think when I first came out of drama school, I felt like I can do anything. I'm the king of acting, the prince of theatre, the president of... So, but now, you know, I'm a bit more like, oh right, we're filming tomorrow, and you know, it's harder to learn the lines than it used to be, and I can't read them because I need glasses and all that. So yeah, but I don't really get nervous. I get excited. I really love doing it, you know. So yeah, not really nerves. First night in a theatre, you get a little bit, you know, because if you get it wrong in front of the camera, unless it's like a really complicated setup, like a sort of West Wing, you know, going through 13 corridors and you'll get the last line and you mess it up, then that's rubbish, because all the other actors hate you because they've got to go back and do it again. But normally, you know, you can do it again. It's not a big deal. Whereas in theatre, if you forget, that's a scary moment. That happened to me doing this Shakespeare play, where I have to say, I meet Macbeth, and I tell him that the kings went to bed, you know, and the king was being drunk when he went to bed, and I say, and he shut up in measureless content. That's the line. Shut up in measureless content. And my son repeats the line. He goes, measureless content, you know. So this one day, and we've been doing it for months, one day I went and he shut up, and could I remember those two words? I was like, oh my God. And, you know, in my head I'm going, it seems like half an hour. I just stood there like, and I knew it was 2 words. And he shut up, and I said, in trivial dreamings. And my son had to repeat it, and he looked at me. And he went, trivial dreamings, and he was in stitches. I had to walk him off. He was laughing so much. So that's kind of, that's slightly scary. Because you just see everybody on stage looking at you like, you're meant to say something. And I'm thinking, I know I'm meant to say something. And I know it's 2 words, but I don't know what they are. And the guy who played Macbeth said, if you had said Trivial Pursuits, he said that would have been the end of the play.
What's the strangest thing you've been asked to sign?
Some people like you to sign parts of their bodies. Women like you to sign bits that, you know, guys don't have. That's weird. Yeah, that's probably the weirdest. Or pictures of Dom. People bring me pictures of Dom. Honestly, they still get us mixed up. Somebody said to me that, you know, there's a cocktail party here. In fact, the person might be in here who said I was wonderful in Hetty Wainthropp. I said I wasn't in it. She said, yes, you were. No, really, I wasn't.
During the commentaries, various people talked about their big injuries, such as big prickles and being thrown off a horse. I mean, was there any type of injury for you during the filming that obviously caused you to either prevent filming or something happened in between?
No, fingers crossed, I've never missed a day of filming or a day on stage or anything. But yeah, all these big battle scenes and climbing up things and lighting beacons and pouring fire on yourself and all that. Like, there is a scene where I'm fighting Denethor and he's on fire. It never made the movie because they thought it was too kind of aggressive for Pippin to be like punching a flaming man. I really wanted it. I thought, no, it's great that he's got to that stage, you know, and they were like, no, it just looks really aggressive. But so it never made it. So there was all these things, and I seemed to... The only time I got hurt was when I wasn't working.
Yeah.
You know, I broke my pinky surfing. I split my face open surfing. Board hit me in the face the day before a Vanity Fair shoot. So they were right pleased about that, I can tell. When I walked up, I was like, oh, stitches. So it was always like, you know, I broke my pinky. Weta, the amazing guys at Weta, I went in and I was like, I broke my pinky. And I had a huge thing, the plastic thing that the hospital gave me. And I was like, they said I've got to wear this, you know, for the next 6 weeks. And the guys at Weta went, right. And by the end of that day, they'd made me a false pinky that I could put on there as a splint. So then I just hid it behind my cloak. So in the Mines of Moria, in the first movie, you'll notice I've always got my hand behind my cloak because I'm hiding my broken pinky. But I think there is a bit where I've got the sword and my pinky's out like that. Yeah, I know.
You've still got it?
Well, a pinky, yeah. Oh, the thing, no. I know, can you put all the things that I've lost? I had x-rays and I thought, oh, it would be great to put the x-ray in a frame with the pinky thing and all that. Nah, nothing. Before I left, there was a bag of my ears. And I thought, I'm going to take that, that'll be handy. And then, just through the years, people would say, have you got anything for a charity or something? I'd give them away. So I've got nothing. I've got no ears, I've got no feet, I've got no pinky cast. Nothing.
In all of the 3 movies, is there one particular scene that you did that you enjoyed doing more than the rest of them?
There was quite a lot I enjoyed. I used to enjoy the little aside scenes with me and Dom, you know. Yeah. That would never make the theatrical cut of the movie, but would be in the extended, you know. All those kind of things. You know, when Orlando comes up as the elf to tell us about lembas bread and how, you know, one crumb can fill a man for a day and you can march for miles on it and stuff, and we're like, right. And when he walks off, Dom says, how many have you had? I say 4. I used to like those kind of scenes, you know. It just made me laugh, thinking about this huge adventure and these 2 little hobbits just like still trying to find some fun. Me and Dom were always trying to put stuff like that in. We had the idea, they never went for it, that when we were leaving Rivendell with the elves and all that when Dom was leaving, there was a pregnant elf that he wouldn't talk to. He thought that was too much. Then another one we wanted was me and Dom to be like when we're camping out somewhere, we're just sitting looking at, you know, the kind of Mount Doom and the thing in the distance there, and it's middle of the night and we're just like, you know, scared about this battle. And we wanted Vigo to come up and stand with us, you know, and just light his pipe or something, and just to hear and then for like me just to go. He didn't go for that either. So there was a lot of stuff that didn't make it.
How far in advance did you get your lines, your scripts?
We honestly, virtually every day, we got the lines that day. There was a script that was wonderful. And all the scripts were great. Return of the King, I still say to this day, was the best script I've ever read. When I read it, I was just in tears for most of it, you know. It's wonderful. But the way Pete and his team work is depending on what they've shot in the last couple of weeks, they keep changing it to, you know, as the script and the film slowly morphs into something else. It's very organic the way they work, you know. So you would get your script pages every morning when you were on your way, and most of the time it would just be little changes, but sometimes it'd be a huge, totally different scene, you know. But most of the time it was just little changes. Which is one time they played a joke on me and Dom. We decided that we wanted to, rather than be driven from set to set or flying, we thought we wanted to see a bit more of New Zealand. So we thought we'll drive ourselves around. And one morning, so we were staying at this hotel in Twizel, I think, and we had to drive somewhere else. Oh no, we weren't. Me and Dom were on wet weather cover. So they said to us, look, you're not shooting anything for this whole week, but just in case it's raining, would you guys be in Twizel? And we'll get you guys a house and all that, you can hang out. And it was a brilliant week. It never rained, so me and Dom never worked. So we just sat and watched movies, and it was brilliant. And then at the end of it, we were driving to do our scene somewhere where we meet Treebeard. And they said there's been a few changes because they want a bit more comedy in the film at this point. And we were like, yeah, no worries. And we get the script. And it said, when I kind of touch Treebeard and he wakens up and turns to us, it says we fall off the tree, and as we hit the branches and fall to the bottom, all our clothes have fell off. And I'm reading this like, what? Right? And I'm like, your clothes fall off? And then I say, the tree spoke, Mary, the tree spoke or something, and he says, it's cold, isn't it? It cold me. long drove to the next thing reading this. And there would be moments of silence as we sort of thought about it, and then it can't be real. And we're calling up the production office, and everybody was in on it, and they were all like, no, it's happening. And then we'd sit for a while longer, and like, Don wore a fat suit in the first two movies, and I said, but you've got a fat, are they going to make a whole prosthetic body for you? Phone up yeah, we're doing that, yeah. Yeah, you know. But that was them just you know, getting back at me and Dom.
They found the technique.
But no, once we got there, they like gave us the real script, you know. I know.
So you the after hours version.
Yeah, we should have done it.
Shoot the 70s music.
I'm right keen for getting my clothes off anyway. I'll get them off anytime on stage or in film. I don't mind.
And on that note, quite possibly, actually, we're bang on time right now, ladies and gentlemen. There's one more question I'll take it on this from the young lady in the back. Oh.
Hey Billy,
Hi.
I heard that you weren't the only one with a prosthetic finger. John Rhys Davies is missing the top half of his.
That's right.
Yeah.
He was in a plane crash or something, and he lost the top parts of his finger.
And they made a prosthetic tip for his finger.
Did they really?
Yeah.
I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and John actually lives near me. But apparently he was teasing Peter Jackson and grossing him out by pulling the tip off.
Oh, really? I tell you what, if you're in a plane crash and you only lose the tops of your fingers, you'd be quite happy, eh? Well, he's lost his own.
Sorry, I'm missing a tip of my finger as well. It's really common. It just happens all the time.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's been such a pleasure. Billy,
It's been a real pleasure, thank you. It's been a great weekend. Really lovely, thank you very much. Thank you. It's a natural nutbar.
No, it's lovely to have you down this way. Great to hear that you're going to be coming back, of course, in around about a month's time.
Yeah,
And,
yeah.
so
Me and Dom will be hanging out. But no, thank you very much. It's been a great weekend, really lovely. Thank you.
Cheers. Round of applause one more time, please. For Billy Boyd.